In this video, we're going to talk about learning how to learn. Um, and as I think about broader the aims of the BYU education, one of them is lifelong learning. And if you're going to become a lifelong learner, you have to learn how to learn on your own to some degree. In learning what resources you can access and where to find those, how to turn to them, you have to take ownership there if you're going to learn how to learn on your own. And I'm not saying that in this class we're going to let you go off, right, and just say, all right, go learn. But one of my hopes in this course is that we can help increase that ability within you for your ability to go learn things outside of this class or in addition, or even sometimes within the class. Um, but help teach you how to do that, hopefully, and give you some resources and get you pointed in the right direction. So, thinking about this, right, how do you learn things on your own? Um, I don't see myself as a very mechanically inclined person, especially when it comes to cars and those kind of things. But when I think of YouTube, that has totally changed the world for me because I do fairly well when I can see something happen, I can then do it myself. A few years ago, I had an axle that needed replacing on one of our vehicles. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and I was like, that actually doesn't look that hard. It turns out it's not. But because of YouTube, I could watch it and see it. Now, if somebody had just described that to me, there's no way I would have tried that. So we live in this time when the resources for us to be able to take ownership of our own learning are greater, perhaps, than they have ever been in human history. And lots of these options now, including things like AI, which we'll talk about in a minute. So when you think about the things we're going to be learning in this class, coding in R, data cleaning and management, data analysis, statistics, the amount of resources online is insane. Um, a colleague in the School of Family Life was recently telling me that he's considering moving to using R rather than the software package he's been using for so long because of the amount of online resources. When he wants to learn how to do something new, there's just so much available with R as compared to other software packages. So historically in this class, I would encourage students to use Google all the time. And a common refrain you'd hear in class is a student would ask a question, I'd say, well, have you Googled that? Okay, well, let's talk about what you could Google, what you could search for in order to find that answer. And these are some very common or kind of classic resources. Stack Overflow here is a really good one. And I still do occasionally use still do use Stack Overflow despite ChatGPT. But I don't use these resources as much. Part of the reason I liked Stacked Overflow is that you could ask questions and people would often answer them, and sometimes even quickly. I mean, I'm cherry picking an example here, but this person had asked this question 2 minutes previous and they already had one answer. That's pretty cool. I mean, this person had asked that 9 minutes ago and didn't have any answers yet. But it's a great resource to go get help. And it's still something you may want to explore, maybe. Um, let's talk more though about ChatGPT. So the common refrain in this class now is, "Hell, have you asked ChatGPT?" So to say this like just explicitly, it's more than okay to use ChatGPT in this class. I am strongly encouraging you to use it, and I really see your learning of how to work with ChatGPT in this course as just another tool or another skill that you're gaining, kind of a secondary benefit of this class. Learning how to work with it. It's unique and it's different than things we've had in the past. And I think it's a skill that people are going to need to have to really succeed in the future. So just some very, very, very basic things about ChatGPT. It doesn't technically know things. The way they say this rather is that it's been trained on text from lots of different sources, books and websites and blogs and all sorts of things. And it has that information in its system. And it uses it in a way that I'll be honest, I don't really understand, but it's different in the way it uses it versus a search engine. So you think of a search engine like Google, you're putting in some words or some phrases, maybe using quotations or like and or kind of things. And Google is then just scouring the internet for those phrases for them to pop up, which is a tremendous thing too. I mean, I was a kid when um, search engines started coming about, and it was revolutionary. It changed everything. But ChatGPT is doing this in a different way. It's not just scouring the internet for those phrases. It's I know I said it doesn't know things, but we tend to talk about it almost as if it's a person, right? It's scouring what it's learned or what it's been trained on, to predict and understand and have this kind of conversation with you. So it really is more like a conversation with a real person, um, that you can go back and forth with it. Um, so having said that, the better questions you give it, the better answers you're going to get. And I'm going to harp on this a couple times here, and I will in class probably a bunch too. Without knowledge of data and R and coding and statistics, ChatGPT will be not very useful. Um, it cannot create something within you that's not there, but it can help enhance the learning that you are getting in this class. So you've got to make sure that you are working to understand the concepts we're teaching you, and then let ChatGPT help you solve problems, versus letting it try to do the work for you. It can't make up for your lack of knowledge. It can only help you solve problems and maybe enhance your learning in other ways too. So I'm going to give some examples of this, some specific examples in a second, but you can ask follow-up questions to ChatGPT. Thinking of this being like a conversation, you can have a conversation with it. Right? You've asked it one thing, and then you can ask it to clarify. Or you could say that code doesn't work. I'm looking to do something like this other thing instead. So let's talk about some specific examples, and we'll look at do this actually together too. So some specific ways. I think this is maybe the first way that you should use this, um, and I find this incredibly helpful. I use this all the time. You have an error in your code and you can't figure out what that error is. Copy your code, paste it into ChatGPT, and let it find your error. So I'm going to jump over to RStudio. Now we haven't gotten this far yet, but right here I've got a linear regression model. Um, Currently it doesn't have any errors, but I'm going to create one. Um, and so let's say, right, it says here I've got an error. I'm trying to run this code and it's not working. It says there's an error and I just can't figure out what's going on. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come over here to ChatGPT. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to paste it into ChatGPT. And it says the syntax for this appears mostly correct, but has an extra parentheses. This is part of the beauty of it too, right? It's down here. It's going to teach me some other things. I'm not even going to bother with that right now. But it figured out what that error was. I can then copy. If I just click copy code and jump back over to RStudio, I can then paste in that code and it has solved the problem for me. I run it and ta-da, no error listed down here. So when you got errors you can't figure out, paste it into ChatGPT, let it solve it for you. Another way that I use it regularly is I just can't remember how to do something. And we're encouraging you to keep a cheat sheet, and I think that's still really, really wise, um, because you get familiar, comfortable with the way we're teaching you to do something. But as you've learned or will learn, there are often dozens of ways you could do something in R to solve the same problem. And sometimes or often ChatGPT is going to give you a different way of doing it than you are comfortable or familiar with. So still keep that cheat sheet. But sometimes I still will go to it and say, um, I can't remember how remember how to merge data in R. Can you teach me? Now, when I said, can you teach me, it's probably going to give me more information. My daughter's been using my account. So it just called me by her name. That's funny. So it's going to give me some different examples here. Using merge, using dplyr. It's going to keep running here for a second. And so then you could scan through this and be like, oh yeah, merge. I remember we learned merge. Or, oh yeah, I remember we learned fold join. Or we learned right join kind of thing. So look through that and find what you remember. And you could ask a follow-up question. So you're like, yeah, I remember merge, but I remember it was tricky in some places. So can you tell me more about using merge? And certainly, right? Then it's going to tell me more. That's really, really useful. Okay. This next part is going to require you to do some learning and slowing down and not just trying to get code that works, but trying to really understand things. If you don't understand how some code works, ask it to teach you. Let's go back and it's still teaching merge. It often then gives these examples. It'll like give you a fake data frame, so it's creating some data frames here, and then it's showing you how to merge them and what it should look like. So then you could then go do that in your own code, your own script. That would be awesome. I'm going to jump back to RStudio here. So I've got, I'm going to pull up some simpler, right here I've got some script pulling in some data, importing data. And I'm going to just type in that script. I'm going to say, I don't understand. So, all right. It's saying some stuff about it already. It's like, maybe I've done this enough that it assumes I'm going to ask it to teach me how this code works, because that's exactly what it jumped into. It's teaching me what package to install, how to do it, key features here. That's awesome. But I'm going to ask it anyways. I don't understand how this works. Can you explain it to me? So then it's going to go through piece by piece. So let's say you're reading this and you're like, I still don't get it. Tell it, I still don't get it. You can tell it, I don't understand. Can you make this more simple? And at that point, it will try to simplify things. And this can be really, really useful. I've learned a lot by doing this. The last way that I use this all the time, and we'll get to plots later on, but we'll have a whole week on plotting. R is very powerful when it comes to the visual aspect of data. And so when I'm working on a plot, I often will be like, okay, I want my plot to have a different font, or I want to bold this, or I want to space this out. And I'll just, rather than going and figuring out how to do that myself, I will just explain to ChatGPT how I want the plot to look. So when we get to that plotting exercise, remember that and use it. It's really, really great at doing that. And it doesn't always work the first time. In fact, I'd say it usually doesn't. It'll spit something out and I'll be like, no, that's not quite right. I didn't mean this. Can you adjust this part instead? And with some practice, you can do great things here. But to go back to some of that caution, sometimes it does give you bad code. So don't just stick the code in there and copy and paste it into your script and assume it works. Make sure you're running things, making sure you always verify. Now, I imagine that some of you at this point are saying, okay, can I use it to do my homework? Well, um, there's multiple things here. One is ethically, you're not allowed to upload any of the data. So any of the data frames, data sets that we are working with, you cannot upload those to ChatGPT. It uses and saves that information. And sometimes we're working with data that is, we have approval to use it, but not to share it. So if I've found that you have uploaded any data to ChatGPT, that's an instant fail of the entire course. Now, I'm not saying code, right, but the actual data frame itself. No uploading data files to ChatGPT. Having said that, I did try to see if ChatGPT could generate code for me that would help me, like just do the learning assignments for me, right? Could I give it the questions and describe what I was trying to do and have it do it for me? I did this on multiple learning assignments and only got one of them right. This goes back to that concept of you need to know enough in order to use ChatGPT. If you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to be useful. I had a student a year or so ago um, that kind of just he wasn't staying up on the videos and got behind and started thinking, okay, I'll just use ChatGPT and it'll help me get through. He was failing the class so bad. Um, and we're talking, kind of getting zeros or close to zero on the learning assignments because he was just asking ChatGPT to do the learning assignment for him, and it couldn't because he didn't know enough in order to have it help him. It didn't work the other way, so he ended up having to withdraw from the class because he was failing so badly. So to harp on that one more time, it's a really powerful tool, but if you don't know what you're doing, it will not be helpful. All right, so the last thing here that brings us to the learn something, share something assignment that we'll have in class here soon. For this class, I just want you to use something, learn something in R. It can be useful, it can be funny, it can be silly. We have had such a wide variety of things here. People have learned how to solve Sudoku puzzles or to play Minesweeper or to have it um, play music. You can code it to play Taylor Swift songs or to do a content analysis of all the Harry Potter books and see which words are used the most often. Um, it's Ron, Hermione, and Harry, those three names. Um, somebody had it draw pictures, somebody had it design how to do a Lego mosaic. Give it a picture and it would tell you what Lego pieces you need to make a mosaic out of that picture. So, whatever it is, right? Learn something, and then we'll use R. I'll create a function that will randomly draw names from the class, and if it draws your name, then you'll come up and share with everybody. If it doesn't draw your name, then you don't have to share. And that's it. We're looking forward to that, and we'll see you in class.